Right, let's get started.
Yes, let's do that.
Hello and welcome back to our podcast, Ramped Up. My name is George Browse.
My name is Julia Shenko.
And we are here today to talk about an issue that is close to our hearts and we are very passionate about and have a lot of feelings on. And I'm sure that you have a lot of feelings on them too. It is transport and traveling. We have a lot to unpack. And actually, it's a heavy episode for me, not because, it's a topic that most people would find heavy, but just because I have so many experiences, a lot of negative experiences. I'm going to try and get through this without crying. I was reading an article about half an hour ago that was actually brought tears to my eyes. So I'm going to try and do this podcast without crying too much.
If you do, I'll just take over for a little while until you've calmed down, so don't worry about that. Unless we both start crying, then that's going to be an issue.
That will be an issue. I'll have a lot of editing to do.
Oh, no.
It's fine. I'm used to editing by now. We've got so much to talk about. I actually don't know where to start. In this episode, we will be covering trains, because that's a whole thing. We'll be covering journey times. Just there's a lot to deal with.
Buses.
Yeah, there's lots. Julia.
Any transport you can think of, basically.
There is. There's issues wherever you look. Julia, where do you want to start?
Maybe let's start with trains, because that is a whole can of beans that we need to address.
That is probably, as a disabled person, the biggest issue that I face.
My worst nightmare. I hate trains. I would rather take a bus than a train, and that says a lot.
Yeah, I when I was going to college the first year, I would take the bus instead of the train, which meant my journey took 45 minutes to an hour instead of 15 minutes. So it's a whole.
Yeah.
Now here's the issue with trains, particularly as a wheelchair user, but other disabled people have the same issue. As a wheelchair user, I need a ramp because
we both do.
Yeah, because the gap between the train and the platform is big. What? Julia found something at me. I was like, what is this?
I'm just doing the whole, when you go on the train, like, please mind the gap between the train and the platform. Basically what I'm mimicking. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Ignore me.
Yeah, so I need a ramp. We both need ramps to get on and off the train. Mm-hmm. That's fine sometimes. It does, of course, mean that you need staff there at both platforms, and there isn't always. That's as simple as you can put it. I made a website actually, which once I finish, I'm gonna start promoting. Where you just say how your experience was with each journey, and then we can sort of give this to the train operating companies, Southwestern, Gatwick Express, whatever other train companies there are, and say, look, this is where you failed us. This is, do better. That's the sort of idea behind that. Because as a wheelchair user, I need so much support. I need to find someone to get the ramp so that I can get on the train. Sometimes that's been known to take as long as 4 minutes. And actually, it's taken 6 minutes recently, which delayed the next train, which I felt really bad for. But it's not my fault because I'm just trying to get home. There's a lot of. We need so much support, and that support isn't given. I've had lots of experiences, as I say, with trains. When I was about 6, I want to say, instead of the staff getting a ramp and doing what the protocol says to do, I was in my manual chair and the staff picked me up by the wheels.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's a bad idea.
That's one of the most stupid things that person could have done. Here's the reason why. In case you didn't realise, wheels spin round. Wheelchairs are also top heavy. So as the wheel spins, I end up upside down. It gets worse than that because I seem to remember seeing a lot more train wheels than train carriage. I actually, like, my head went through the gap.
No, girl, what? Why? Who does that?
Because it's actually a really common thing. People often think, well, because I mean, if you think about it, wheels are big and they're metal and they look like candles, and I hold them, so why can't they hold them? So when you pick something up, it's like the most obvious handle. It's
Unless,
a handle.
don't you put your brakes on for them to do that?
No, the brakes don't always work. Not that well. Not well enough to. You know,
No. I know that. Like I've experienced like
yeah.
brakes not working for me. But wow, that's like my worst nightmare, honestly.
It's happened so many times.
I don't think people realize, like, to them, it's quite logical. I'll
Yeah.
just pick up the chair. I don't think people realize that we, like, as a wheelchair person, you're not always balanced. As in, like, your body's
Of course
unbalanced
not.
itself.
And you're
well.
always top heavy because the wheels
Exactly.
are obviously always
The
at the
thing
bottom.
is, my problem is I always lean forward.
Mhm.
Even though I get yelled at to lean back against my chair.
Yeah.
But you
I
know,
do
it's
too.
not comfortable to lean forward all the time.
Mm.
So if someone was to pick up my chair out of nowhere and I was to lean forward, you better guarantee that I want to go face first into the
You
ground.
don't even have to lean forward because of your legs as well. And the wheels are at the back.
Yes,
So you will spin forward whatever happens.
But yeah, that's terrifying.
Mhm.
Someone to pick you up.
Welcome to the life of a wheelchair user.
It's grey over here. Yeah, and another thing I want to cover also is that platforms and like train stations are not accessible either. Like there's been so many times where I would get on to a train where the station and the platform is completely accessible to me. However, the platform or the station I need to get off at is not accessible.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Like,
Like, if
so the lift's
like,
broken down and they've not told you until you're at the station
no,
trying to get out.
regardless, even if there is no lift, like I would want, if I wanted to get off, we went to central London actually, and I remember for some reason I couldn't get on. I think it's because we were confused on where to enter from, for me actually. So Joel got onto the train, went to the stop we were meant to go off at, realized that the station has no lift but stairs. And then he called me, he's like, you can't get onto this platform, you need to go at least 1 or 2 stations back. And I was like, why? He's like, there's no lift here. I'm like, that's a joke. When someone arrived on the platform, we were even told that, by the way, there's no lift there. I was like, but why? Why isn't that a thing for every single platform? But then
Have you heard that the Elizabeth line just opened, literally just opened like a month ago? Possibly 3, I don't know. But less than half a year ago. And it's still not wheelchair accessible from street to train for many platforms and many stations.
Why?
How much money did they spend on that? How much over budget did they go? And we're in the 21st century, and disabled people have existed for centuries and centuries, millennia even, and we're still, that's not even on their mind.
Like I don't care if your station has carvings on the walls or marbled flooring or benches or whatever. I don't care. I just want a train track, and a lift.
Yeah.
Just those 3 things. That's all we need. Yeah. And also, I don't know why, but some staff members on like certain platforms, I always think I'm such a huge inconvenience to their day.
Yeah.
Like there's so many times where either I'm with someone or I'm solo or whatever, and I just find the most rudest like staff members possible, and I'm just like, I'm so sorry to be an inconvenience to your day,
Yeah.
but
I'm
like
so
I need
sorry
to
you
get
have to do your
somewhere.
job.
Like I'm so sorry I have to get somewhere. Oh, this is
Yeah,
why it infuriates
I'm sorry.
me.
I apologize that I need to get home to see my mum.
And like I get it, like someone can have a bad day, right?
Yeah.
But come on, every single time on the station, and there's someone who finds it as an inconvenience. Me, sorry, I'd rather not be interested in that kind of situation. Thank you. It's so weird. Also, the whole like trips. You know, like when you go on a school trip, right? And then to get public transport to get somewhere. There's been times where they were like, "Oh, we need to call like, oh, we know to go to see a person. We have to call this the station or the platform. Let them know there's going to be the same person there, right?" There's been so many times, so many I lost count, where we get to the station, we get the tickets, and then the staff member's like, "Oh, by the way, where are you going?" And then we tell them the station, the staff will tell them the station, and they'll be like, "Oh, we're so sorry, but the platform's not wheelchair accessible." And then
you're
the
lucky if that
teacher,
happens to you.
and then the teacher would be like, "Oh, I forgot to call." There's been so many times where teachers would be like, right before we get onto the train or before we arrive at the station, be like, "Oh, by the way, I did not call anyone." And then they're like, "Oh, you're gonna have to take the buses there." Guarantee you, there's been a time where I had to go to the Globe Theatre, Shakespeare Globe Theatre, and not only did we take the bus, like a few buses there, we had to take a taxi there as well. And I just remember like everyone was waiting for me, and you can just tell. I mean, let's be honest, kids are kids, right?
Yeah.
And they were like so disappointed they had to wait
for
me to arrive, and you can just tell by the look on their faces, them rolling their eyes or making funny noises. I'm like, that's not necessary. Like, I get it. Back then we were kids, but like, as a disabled child, you feel like the biggest inconvenience in the world. Same thing would happen if, when they have to put you in a group of like a few people, because it's gonna be like one teacher with a group of kids that would like move from one place to another, right? And I would always be behind because, you know, my leg will come out of my foot plate and they have to fix my leg, or I drop something on the ground, or they have to wait because it's a curb, or you know, small things that, you know, as a user is so common for us, and we don't see it as a big inconvenience. But for them to like always to be standing there, look behind them, like I'm still like 2 meters away from them, I have to catch up to them with my assistant, and they would be like, "Oh, come on, hurry up." Do you know what I mean? It's those little things that irritate me so much. Like, I'm so sorry to be inconvenience to people. This is why sometimes I prefer to go solo, because then I don't have anyone next to me grunting, making noises, or complaining that I'm taking too long.
Going back to platforms, I've noticed at some stations they have an announcement saying, please note, this station has only some or no tactile paving on our platforms. Basically, you know, if you're blind, you have a cane. You often have a cane. But you swipe across the ground so that you can tell when there's a step or something in your way. So stations, platforms almost always have that bumpy paving, so that you know you can avoid the platform. You know where the edge is. So not having that provides a real issue for people who are visually impaired. It becomes a hazard. It becomes a real danger. And becomes a possibility that they actually fall onto the platform, onto the tracks.
Yeah, I've always wondered how people who are visually impaired get off the trains.
They need, well, we don't need necessarily, but I've seen that they often have support in getting on and off.
No, yeah. But like, let's be honest, like when you're a disabled person, you don't want to have someone with you constantly every single time you go out.
Yeah. No,
So-
I just meant like a guard or platform and stuff.
No,
Like we
no,
have.
I know what you mean, but like at the same time, like if they didn't make the gaps or like had some sort of like we've talked about this actually a couple of times actually, Joel, where some like trains should have a built-in ramps.
Mm,
Kind of like similar to buses. Like if we
Yeah.
open the ramp, people can get on and off very easily. Why can't they do that?
yeah.
Like
Makes
I
sense.
know that trains have developed and become more advanced, and the stations and the platforms have stayed the same. But like, if the trains are changing and they can see the danger of a gap, and they
Mm,
know that a wheelchair person with a cane, person who is blind, anyone who has trouble getting off the train
mm,
could have a built-in ramp actually. Because like even if you think about it, like if you're visually impaired and you have the texture on the ramp and you run your cane over it, that would be an easy indicator for that person to be like, okay, this is how big the ramp is, and that's how much space I've got to get on and off. Also saves the inconvenience of asking someone to help, like with a ramp.
yeah.
And also thinking about it also when you're especially for us as wheelchair users, I feel like it's better to travel with a group of people rather than going solo, I feel like. Because if I go with a group of people, someone could always get off and find someone quickly to get the ramp. Because even if you call in advance and be like, by the way, I'm a wheelchair user, I need a ramp. There's been so many times where I've panicked because no one arrived at the ramp, and the train went off one station, forward. And then when when there is a person on the platform, like a staff member, and they see me, they help me get off, but I tell them like this is not my platform. I'm meant to get off on the last platform, but no one was there. And they were like, oh, and then they blame it on me, saying, oh, you didn't call them probably. I'm like, I did. I called them 24 hours before I traveled, and I always put it out as a rule of thumb, an hour before I get on the platform again, like before I have to go back. I would call them. So for them to be like, "Oh, you didn't call us," I don't feel like that's an us problem. That's a them problem rather than an us problem. So another mode of transport that I think is a little bit better than trains are buses. However, there are also downsides to buses, quite not as bad as trains, I think. Probably one of the main ones is broken ramps that buses have. Some of them don't always extend out. Other time it's also just ignorant people, where you would have these mums with like strollers or buggies, and they refuse to move it.
So we are aware that this episode has been a lot about us complaining, but don't worry because that is changing. We are going to be talking to guests very, very soon. And here's what's coming up in the next episode. We'll be talking about mental health and representation of people in the media. Do let us know your thoughts. You can message me, Joel Sprouse03 on TikTok and Instagram, or you can message on Discord. If it be in the description, go do that because we want to hear from you as always. Because quite frankly, I'm bored of just two people talking at each other.
We need more
Yeah,
voices. We need
don't
more
like this.
voices.
Yeah, because we're talking about disabled people, not just Joel and Julia.
Exactly.
Like, come help us. So yeah, next time we'll be talking mental health, representation of people in the media, and we've got a bit of a divisive question. Are you for identity first language or person first language? That's a whole debate going on in the community at the moment. Let us know your thoughts, and we will be back very soon. So goodbye for me, Joel Sprouse.
And from me, Julia Shankar.
We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.